Buckle up for the Money Vehicle Movement podcast. I'm Jedediah Collins, your host and driving instructor on this journey through speaking the language of money. Twists, turns, and avoiding those money potholes, we'll cover it all on our road trip to financial freedom. Engines ready? Then let's drive. All right, Khari, this is a perfect time to connect. Your off season, just getting settled. Brother, how did the season wrap up? How you feeling today?
Season ended, I feel like for the team on a high note, for myself, came out relatively healthy.
Always
It's the
relative.
best you could ask
Always
for, you know what
relative.
I'm saying? Yeah, always relative, but season, ended well, and I'm excited about the off season getting better for next season, and yeah, man, I'm glad to be here
Always,
kicking it with
man.
you.
You gotta get that fullback love, fullback fraternity. As you look at this, something we talk to our students a lot about is goal setting. I would be curious, as you looked at this year in your becoming a veteran mode and going into this first off season, have you started to think about any goals you have set for yourself going into this year?
Absolutely, absolutely. When I sit down and do my mindfulness, it's always in the back of my mind how I want to perform, the numbers I want to have. So I've definitely started thinking about it, daydreaming and
And as you
visualizing it.
look out,
Absolutely.
a year in the making, we just fast forward to January 2025. Have you started to look at anything like specific? Hey, when I wrap up this one next year, I want to do X, Y, or Z. Anything that around setting your goals?
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
want to be a Pro Bowler. I want to be a Pro Bowl fullback. Uh, I want to have the number one rushing offense in the league. Excuse me. I want to have the number one rushing offense in the league, and I want to be a big part of that. Leading the way. And as far as my involvement, in the offense, I just want to be more productive overall on offense. And I got
Yeah.
special teams goals. I want to big up my special teams play from the last
I
few
love it.
years also.
Man,
So
1 year from today, got to say it to become it, become a Pro Bowl player. That is a great aspiration. And as you are excelling in your career, I have no doubts about it. But as we're talking money vehicles, we're talking money. As you look at it, man, we got to meet last year at an advisor workshop. You are out educating and empowering yourself around this journey. But go back to being a rookie. Go back to when you first started entering the league. Did you have any understanding or concepts around money that you were prepared for, or was it trial by fire as you got in, you started to learn?
so I was prepared just from hearing the words, hearing, what is an index fund, mutual fund, and understanding that I had to invest, I had to save my money. But, as far as my individual goals, I was undrafted. I was an undrafted free agent. And I was still in grad school at the time too. So, I tell a lot of my teammates this when I'm talking. My initial goal was to make the practice squad and make
Love it.
$150,000. That was my initial goal, and I was like, if I could do that, whether I get cut, whether or not, I still have this degree I'm still pursuing. If I can put that much space between me and zero in my bank account, I'll be happy. And so that year I was able to exceed that, and so that it felt great. I was saving money, so I had a lot put up. I was investing a little bit at the time, and it's right about when COVID hit is after my rookie year. So my second year was the COVID year. So yeah, to answer your initial question, I did have a little bit of knowledge, but my main goal was just save enough money to put a little bit of distance between me and zero, and give me some time to pivot and make my next move if I have to do that. Luckily, I haven't had to, but that was my first. That was like my first goal. It's like, all right, I need to put some distance between me and having
And man,
no money.
that's what we call the Corona cushion, man. Get that first buffer in between me and zero. I like that. I never said it like that, but as you look at it, you set that goal, you achieved that goal, and you said you came into the business knowing I have to invest. We all come in and we say, I set a similar goal as you. You wanted to save $150,000, but you quickly realize saving's good, but I have to turn that corner to investing. What was it that made you know, or what was it about just what you were thinking that you knew you would have to become an investor?
So funny story. So I mentioned that that 2020 COVID. So like, the market dropped and everything was going on. So I remember I was having a conversation with my dad, and he was telling me, "Hey, you need to invest a little bit of this. S&P 500." He was putting me on game, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna wait. Uh, I don't really want to do it right now. I think something's about to happen." And so when it did happen, I felt like
Yeah.
really vindicated, and I had owned Bitcoin since
Okay.
2018, and so I saw it start to do what it was doing, and I was like, "Oh man, this is boom! I'm doing the right things." I had a little bit of money in
Hmm.
VOO at the time, excuse me, but I saw it go down. But if I had to listen to my dad at the time and put money in the index, it went right back up. Like it went it went crazy, and
Yeah.
Bitcoin did the opposite, right? So I didn't lose that much money because I didn't have that much money in Bitcoin. But like I learned at that point, okay, the market, the market is gonna do what it's gonna do. It's gonna rebound. It's gonna have its corrections. I want my piece of that. And then I just had to figure out exactly how I wanted to do it. I had an advisor at the time, and I was learning through some of the things that he was doing, but also uh, I had kind of a moment in my third year where I got hurt, and so I really went deep into my finances and did the best I could do to learn everything I could about it because I was afraid, like I didn't know if
Hmm.
I was going to play again after that. So uh, yeah, I
No, you're
probably
good.
started rambling, but
Yeah.
what was the
No,
initial
one, I
question?
love your call out of VOO. Can you explain real quick what VOO is?
So VOO is the Vanguard S&P
Mm.
500 ETF. ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. So you buy one share of VOO, you're buying a collection of roughly 500 companies that encompass the United States, largest
And
companies in the United States.
I want to call out
Uh,
never investment advice, just education, explaining what that is because he said that ticker symbol, and that's how you look up a stock VOO. If you Google VOO, that is what will come up. But as you heard him say, I wanted to be able to rebound as the economy rebounded. Owning those 500 companies allowed you that opportunity. So I really think that that was an important facet as you see that somber kind of humbling moment of being hurt, seeing I'm not indestructible. We are both men, and the business is built on guys who defy the odds and continue to go against the mighty and survive and get stronger. When you looked at that, I know a big question that is surrounding athletes in our entirety is this idea of transition. You'll always keep your focus on making it another year, being the best fullback in the business. But as you looked at, now I have an injury, now I have some time. What I love about you is you decided to invest in you. You decided to educate yourself. So go a little further on that journey of like you got hurt and you went and started to look into your own finances, starting to speak this language of money. How did you begin that? Like where did you go?
so what I did was I went and looked at everything that I was invested with. So my advisor was with Edward
Okay.
Jones at the time. And so I just everything that I had, all of the mutual funds, I just went and looked at them and I read the prospectuses. I wanted to know what was in them. What am I exposed to? What does it mean that I have this? Because I could be going in the general direction and having growth, but I wanted to know exactly what was going on. So I started looking at it, reading the prospectuses, learning about the expense ratios, the load ratios, and then doing some of the math myself, understanding what that was going to do to my earnings, how that was going to affect my growth of my portfolio. And so through that I learned that for me personally, because
Yep.
this isn't investment advice, uh but I learned that for me personally, I would rather just have a long time horizon and be in index funds and not try to pick a manager or pick a sector, do things like that. Like I'd rather just be diversified and take the simple approach, but span that out over
And you
20 and
mentioned
30
expense
years.
ratio. What does that mean, and how does that play into that decision to go to index funds?
So expense ratio is the amount of money you pay to earn a certain ETF or index fund, right? If uh if I'm paying my advisor 1% and then the index fund that he buys for me also has an expense ratio
Yeah,
of, let's just call
easy
it
numbers.
1% for easy math, and I make 20, like, so what did the market do this past year? Let's call it 20% for easy numbers, right? Then I really would have only made
Yeah.
18% because I made the 20% minus the expense ratio that I paid and then the 1% that I paid him. And just like growth compounds, the expenses
Mm,
that you pay
mm.
compound too. And so that I learned, like, from the math side of just like looking at the math of it, it was going to eat into the potential earnings that I could have if I minimized the expenses. And in other words, cut the middleman out and, did it on my
Uh,
own. So
that was perfect.
that's
Yeah,
that's
I
that.
think that is such a
Yeah,
huge
appreciate it.
mindset of just how can I be more efficient with my investing? Expense ratio, something I didn't understand when I started out. And you do start to look at it. You use an example where the economy did extremely well, 20%. What most people don't realize is if we just do 4%, well, dang, now my fees cut that in half. Or what if the market went down and I still pay my advisor 1% and then I got to pay the expense ratio? So it is a noteworthy kind of thought process of why are we looking at these kinds of funds. I want to circle back and not spend too much time, but you mentioned it, and it is an interesting topic. Again, the world is changing, and as we look at cryptocurrencies, you were in Bitcoin back in, you said 2018, back in the a few years ago. How did you get turned on to it, and how do you see it now as an investment 6 7 years later? How do you see it going forward for, let's say, somebody like a high school student to look at?
So funny, I actually first found out about Bitcoin from the
All right,
movie
yeah.
Dope. They had mentioned it in the movie. I think they were using it to sell drugs or do something with the money. And then, like, just over time, like, from that moment,
Mhm.
start hearing about it more. Some other teammates had, were into it and had bought Bitcoin and Ethereum, and so I took a little bit of money and I
Mm.
just wanted to see what it was about. So I started off with like $50, and I just wanted to see what it would do, and it, went up and down, up and down, up and down. But I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna hold it. I'm, added to it just a little bit. Uh, and yeah, so just from holding it, I wanted to learn about it. So I started following people on Twitter. Not all of them were great follows, but it helped me learn some of the it helped me learn some of the,
Yeah.
like, the lingo about it, right? And so yeah, and as far as like how I would think about it, for me, it's less than 5% of my portfolio. It's one of those things that I enjoy reading about it. It's exciting to think about, like, what it might mean for entrepreneurs, creating their own ecosystems built on the back of, other blockchains, not necessarily just Bitcoin, but Ethereum, XRP, all these other things. It's interesting to read about. And so, I have a little bit of it to, like, just keep me excited, keep me in the game, but I'm not putting my whole plan based on what happens with Bitcoin or Ethereum or XRP or Solana or any of these other ones. So I think that it's like, you know, blockchain has become a technology that, a lot of people see a use case for, and a lot of things in the future will probably be built on the blockchain. But I don't think that it's necessarily something that you should go gamble your whole net worth
And
on. So
that
that's
is
my
a kind of a mindset and a notion a lot of young investors want to believe is I just need to hit one home run. And if this is going to be my home run, and I love what you said about, hey, I heard it and saw it in a movie, and then I kept seeing it other places. It's kind of like, saying you saw a car, type of car for the first time, and then you drive around, you see like 8 of those same cars. You're like, man, I'd never noticed that before. But it kind of becomes part of
right.
that. I agree with you. I think blockchain's an amazing technology. I think it's an interesting investment. And truly, at 20 years old, you started getting into it. We're talking to high school students who are starting to be interested in things like this. The future is going to have cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin being the most stable of them. I do see it being around. But I love your call out of, no, this is not my secret home run. This is not where I'm banking everything on, uh, and keeping it in perspective. And I think that's something a lot of students today need to hear, is this idea of, you can take risk and every investment has risk. I love to repeat this quote of, if you think investing is risky, wait till you get the bill for not investing. But as you do measure the values of investing, the risk with anything is going to be something you need to look at as a holistic plan. So take me to that, as you have, I mean, you got married last year, your plan, your finances, kind of everything is being seen through a different lens now to some degree. So how has kind of a plan started to appear for you as you've graduated and started to understand more and more of money?
The planning aspect, like everything has to revolve around the plan. Uh, like you said, I have a wife, I have a daughter, so thinking about college planning, 529s, things like that. But I think everything has to revolve around the plan, and like you mentioned, everything has to be about managing risk, right? You said everybody's looking for that one home run, but if you're swinging for a home run that's a
Mm,
surefire way to strike out. You know, I'm trying to get base hits. I want to get on first, and
yeah,
I want my other hitters to move me around the bases. You know what I mean? Like I'm not swinging for the fence in the way that I'm looking for the next small cap company that's gonna be
Amazon, yeah.
the Apple killer. That's gonna be, yeah, like that's, if if you could identify that easily, like everybody on Wall Street, every analyst
Hmm.
on Wall Street would be doing it, right? So I'm trying to get the simple wins, right? And we mentioned this earlier, but like I want the simple wins, but getting the simple wins isn't easy, right? So my plan is about having a long term time horizon, uh, minimizing losses, right? First rule of investing is don't lose money, right? So I'm trying to minimize losses, and I'm trying to minimize losses with taxes. I'm trying to minimize losses in my exposure to stocks, but I can't really
Hmm.
control stocks. They go up and down, right? So it's just about being able to weather the losses until they return, because you don't lose money
Right.
unless you sell, right? So it's about managing risk, it's about managing taxes, and it's about looking into the future when my daughter's 18, about to go to college, or my other children, that I
I
might
love
have in the
that. You
future.
don't win, you don't lose until you sell. I think that is a really big misunderstanding with people in the market. I lost money today. Did you sell? No. Then you didn't lose anything. And so really looking at that long-term perspective. Before we jumped on, you mentioned, talking to guys in the locker room. And I know this a decade ago when I was in the locker room. Today, you are a player that is being pointed to as somebody who is more educated about this subject. As you talk to guys and about how they start to invest, what would you say is one of the biggest hurdles that they have to get over mentally when they go into their investment strategy?
Thinking that it's too complicated, thinking that it's too complicated for them to understand, and so not getting their feet wet, and diving into the material, and also buying into the idea that it has to be complex for
Mm,
it to be successful. I would think those are the two things. Just getting started. Like, just because you don't understand the stock market, or you might not understand exactly how everything works, like just getting started with a little bit of money and committing to doing that for a long period of time is a better plan than not putting anything away, or taking a big moonshot
yeah.
on a crypto or something like that. So I would say those two are the biggest ones. Is buying into the idea that it's too complex for them to fully grasp and
Do you
get
think
a good hold of it,
No, it's
because
not.
it's
Do you
not.
think athletes are more drawn to those kind of like long shots? Oh, I can go defy these odds and prove everybody wrong again.
Absolutely, because that's like you said, that's the athlete's mentality, right? Is that and we all, I think that's the athlete's mentality, and it doesn't help that those are the
Yeah.
stories that we hear, right? So, you hear about the athletes that go and invest in. I think Kobe
Mm.
had Smart Water, right? And he turned a $2 million investment into 200 million. Like everybody's looking for that one, and everybody thinks that they're gonna have some type of edge that gets them that one, right? And everybody wants to be the next. Like I mentioned the late Kobe.
Yep.
Everybody wants to be Magic or Shaq
Shoot,
or
any of the Golden
The
State
Rock and all of
Warriors
his
the last
investment.
like 10 years. Those guys are Silicon Valley has made them billionaires. It's crazy.
Right, right. But I just think that in a lot of cases,
Mhm.
simple is better. Simple is better, and simple and consistent is better, because like we said before, like simple is not easy. Like it's not easy to continue to invest when you see the market has lost 20% or 30%. It's not easy to not sell or to not panic sell when you see something going down. So you see your portfolio going, you know from whatever to whatever, right? That's not easy. So I think, not looking for those home runs is opposite to what athletes have been taught their whole career,
Mhm.
because it's about taking risks, right? It's about, putting in the extra work, getting the edge. But it's hard, it's a hard pill to swallow. But like, when you're playing in the markets, like you're playing against hedge funds, you're playing against like guys with algorithmic learning, like all of these different edges that, you know, probably, you know, it's the likelihood that you beat them, especially when it comes to like day trade and things like that, it's not likely, right? So instead of dealing with possibilities, you start dealing with probabilities, and spreading your money out, so that you're not taking too many hits in one spot, or you're gonna get your game from over here, but this might not be doing well at the time. But it's switching the mindset from like, all right,
Mhm.
I'm about to go make a play. You don't want to be thinking like
You
that
just wanna be
in
in
the
the
market.
game. Uh
You just want to be in the game.
And I love, and we talk again. We're talking to students, young people who are getting started. That idea of it's so complex and so overwhelming. I'm just not even going to get going. I love your call out of just like, no, start a plan. Simple is better. Get that. Get a few days, a few weeks, a few months down the road. The plan's going to change. Everybody's plan will change. It's the only promise you can make. But the idea of not getting started, I think your comment of simple is better, get going. I mean, that to me as a young listener, that is exactly the kind of mindset. I don't know where it's going to be in a month, but I'm going to get going today. Uh, and so one question, because you said you got to purchase your home. One topic we talk a lot about in Money Vehicle is in chapter 5, our credit score. We call it our financial reputation. As you went into kind of that loan, first big loan process, did you notice how important your credit was in that relationship as you were starting to buy your home?
Yeah, it was it was super important. It was super important. That, I mean, they not necessarily grill you on that, but like as far as like them pulling your credit, they're gonna pull it. Think
Yeah.
twice. They pulled it twice. Hard credit inquiry twice. Uh, and they also want to know about your income. Like they want to know everything about your ability to service and pay the loan back. So that's super important. And man, like it took me a long time to learn how to properly maintain my credit. I thought at a certain point, if I had a credit card and I ran it all the way up and just paid it off every month, that my credit would be high. But no, I mean they take into account credit utilization percentage. They take into account all of these things. So it's super important. It's super important to get that credit health uh, under control, and get it under control as fast as you can. Because one of the things that they like to look at is
Mhm.
length of credit, right? Like how long have you had uh revolving credit accounts, and what's your track record with those? So it's super important, and they're gonna grill you on the documentation. They don't care how much money you have in the bank.
Yeah.
That's one thing that shocked me, is because
I'm
I'm like,
I'm an
you don't see,
NFL player,
like
bro.
I
Come
just
on.
showed
They're like,
you,
that means nothing.
like I just showed you this. I showed you this bank account with the money to
Yeah.
do it. Why are you treating me like
No.
this? But they don't care about that. They want to know about income. They want to know about what have you paid back in the past? How much of what percent of your credit are you using? Like they want to know everything.
Brother,
So it's
your
super
easy
important.
call out of credit utilization, 30%. Got to stay under that 30%. And the credit history, why we
30%.
talk to students today and encourage them and beg them, start your credit score today is exactly what Khari just said. They're going to look at it. If you started it at 18 compared to 25, it's a significant difference in how they know you, that reputation that they build. Uh, Man, and you and I, we can go back and forth on this all day long. I got three quick shots at you before we jump off, and then I'm going to let you sign off and wrap up. These are the same questions I'm going to ask everybody. First question: best thing you have used money for? Best thing you spent money on or used money for?
Has to be
There you go.
my homes. Like those are the best. The home I'm in now with my wife and my daughter. Like it just feels so good to come home and have a place to call your own. Like I I know we talk about stocks a lot, but
It's
real
real.
estate, it's a good investment. It's you can put your hands on it, you can feel it, and it serves a real purpose. So I think those purchases were by far the best
And
thing that
as
I spent my
a
money on.
good husband, a good man, when you looked at buying your home, did you buy it close to your childhood or your wife's childhood home?
So my wife actually grew up in South Carolina. I grew up in Alabama, but
You
we kind of
middled
in
it.
the
All right.
midpoint. We're in Georgia. So yeah. So and then her parents are in Georgia now too.
There
So
you go.
help with the baby and
Same here,
everything. So
brother.
that's
You
that's
go
was
where
a
make your wife
yeah.
happy life, happy wife. All right. So flip side of that.
I feel
Love
that.
the investment into a home. And I love that you didn't say, hey, this is an investment that I hope it goes up. No, this is where you're spending your time. This is where your family is and where you feel safe. What is one of the worst things you have done with money? Mistake you've made, a purchase you wish you could have back? That opens up a big
Oh
door.
yeah. I would say I bet on
Good
Dogecoin when
man.
it was
All right,
going up.
that's it.
Not a not a not a not
No?
a not a big bet, so I
Yeah.
didn't lose a whole bunch, but
Yep.
that was stupid. That was stupid. Like looking back, it was
Because you
stupid.
learned
It was
from it.
not smart. And a lot of people made a lot of money. I learned from it. A lot of people made a lot of money, but a
Yep.
lot of people got hurt on it too. So I would say that was foolish. Other than that, you know, I hadn't really
Too
done anything
outlandish.
like as far as like
Yeah.
luxury goods or crazy cars. I haven't really done anything super outlandish that I
Hey,
really regret. So
Dogecoin,
I
but
regret the
it's your story.
Dogecoin though.
And in 10 years, when you become an advisor, you're going to look back at people and be like, I did those because Dogecoin's coming back. It's not going to be called Dogecoin, but it's going to be something else. Like that investment is always there. And it's now you've seen it. And that's why a lot of people don't trust you with money unless you got gray hairs because you got to know the market. You got to have been through some things before. Uh, I think that's an amazing
Yeah.
example. And like you said, didn't you touched the stove, it burned you a little bit, but it didn't damage too much. Uh,
Yeah, just
just
just just the fingertip, not the whole palm. Just.
Uh, all right, last
So
question. You're talking to high school. There's a room full of 50 seniors looking at you and going, Kari, give us some advice, give us some guidance, give us something to think about, or go do. What would you tell a room full of students?
commit to the basics, commit to the simple things and the basics, the fundamentals of anything you're trying to do. I think it applies to anything. It applies to football, it applies to starting a business, it applies to investing. If you can do the simple things and the boring and the mundane things extremely well and consistently, you can set yourself up to be successful uh, in anything you're trying to do. So if you want to put it to, you know, if we're talking to a young athlete, it's go to sleep, drink water, don't put bad stuff in your body. It's a lot of times, and I can
Go.
probably ramble here, but a lot of times people want to get into the fancy machines and do all of the recovery modalities, And that's really like the tip of the iceberg. And what you don't see is like,
Hmm.
did you get 8 hours of sleep? Uh, did you drink a lot of water? Did you eat good food? Did you not put poison in your body? And it's the same thing with finances. The everybody wants to talk about like the things that they see, the high returns on Bitcoin or this crazy private equity deal, but like the main things that set you up to be able to do that underneath the surface are you have a budget and you spend a lot less than you make. Uh, you have a foundation of your portfolio that you dollar cost average into every month, whether that's a 401k or a Roth or whatever it is, So just doing the basic things, the budgeting, the saving, uh, having a plan and sticking to it, those will set you up for greater long term success
Keep
than
it
anything else.
simple, get started, master the basics, brother. You are a disciple of the late Kobe Bryant. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
I
Hey,
appreciate it, man.
you have become a force within the NFL. You've kept our fraternity of fullbacks alive. Khari, brother, I wish you the best, and I appreciate the time and the knowledge you've given to the Money Vehicle students today.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on, and I
So,
look forward to
so.
doing it again. Yes, sir.
Thank you for investing in your greatest asset. If you want to keep learning how to drive your money vehicle, make sure to subscribe to the Money Vehicle Movement podcast. Until our next pit stop together, stop working for money and start making money work for you.